Alright, what's going on, guys? My name's Chopper, and one of the biggest problems facing the gaming industry in the West today is the emergence of microtransactions and micro DLC. This is why so many new gamers and so many gamers these days are just turned off by the fact that it's just riddled with micro DLC and microtransactions that people will stop playing. And games like Destiny and Call of Duty is actually going to be the main topic of today's video. It's going to be focusing on the whole supply drop and COD point controversy that has been in Call of Duty for the past 2 years now with Advanced Warfare and Black Ops 3. So we've all seen micro DLC in some form or fashion in video games these days, and in Black Ops 3 it comes in the form of supply drops and COD points. Now, when micro DLC was first introduced into Call of Duty, I just saw it as a harmless way for developers to turn a little bit of an extra profit on the game without actually providing that much more content to the game itself. It was just a really cheap and effective way for them to make a little bit more money on just like simple stuff like camos. Now, before we get too far into this, we have to take it back to the beginning of micro DLC. So you'll recall back in World at War and COD 4 and MW2 days, there was no such thing as a microtransaction or micro DLC. There was no like buyable camos or anything like that. That started with Black Ops 2 with the purchasable camos. Remember, we had the 115 and all the other ones, the zombie ones like the Octane, all those other cool camos that everybody thought was absolutely amazing. It wasn't even harmless either. We were spending $2 on it, wasn't even that bad. Now that's where it all started, and then Ghost took it even further with the character skins and the voice packs, right? And then Advanced Warfare, I think, is where it really took off with the whole advanced supply drops. And when they said they wouldn't monetize them, but we all knew they would at some point, then they did that, and then it really skyrocketed from there. Advanced Warfare's supply drops earnings is probably way over than the game sales itself. They probably made an absolute ton more just off the supply drops than the actual video game itself. It was actually kind of crazy to think about. So the point here being, it started out as a pretty harmless little way for the developers to make a little bit of an extra profit on their game without providing that much more content, and then it escalated into what we have today with the whole COD points and supply drops thing. So how did we get on this road? Now, we'll go back to the golden age of gaming, which I consider to be around the MW2 and Halo days, Halo 3 days to be exact. That's what I consider the golden age of gaming, and there was no such thing as a micro DLC in those days. It was all about the video game itself and the quality of that game. And back in the day, when you had a higher quality game, that brought in more customers. Nowadays, the gaming industry itself in the West has hit a sort of a customer ceiling cap where they can't reach anymore. They're already selling to the maximum number of people they can sell to. I mean, of course, they can sell overseas, but that's probably a topic for another time. But the point here being, what you need to understand is that the market cap in the West has been reached. The gaming industry cap on video games has been reached, and quality on games is going to stagnate until we have a higher market base. Until we have a bigger customer pool to choose from, games are going to continue to stagnate in terms of its quality, because why would you put more resources and more time and more money into a game for its quality, and you're not going to see a higher return on investment just because there's nobody else to sell it to, right? You're not going to make a higher profit on a higher quality game because it won't pull in any more people because you're already at the maximum of people that you can sell it to, right? So the question for gaming industries nowadays is not how do we make a higher quality game, it becomes how do we cut costs, save money, and then milk the player base that we already have. And that's where I think the emergence of micro DLC came in. You'll actually recall to Destiny, this is what so many people are mad about this game about, because they developed this huge, massive game with a whole lot of content, and then when the game actually dropped, I made videos about this before, they cut content out of the game to resell it as DLC and turn a profit on it, because they didn't have to build a whole new DLC pack from scratch when they could just cut some of it out and then resell it for more money. You know what I'm saying? Like, they didn't have to actually spend more to make more video game. They had to cut out video game that they already created and then put it in later as DLC, which would have been sold with the base game anyway, and they just turned an extra profit on it without having to develop any new content. Destiny is the epitome of cutting costs. They are the masters of saving money on their game. Now, when cutting costs isn't enough to turn the profit, then they have to go a step further, and that's where micro DLC comes in. Now, games these days cost so much more to develop than they did back then. Halo 3 cost around $60 million to make and develop, and that includes, the marketing, the building the game from scratch and everything like that. And so it's around $60 million estimated. And Black Ops 3 is estimated to have cost about $265 million, which is so much more than Halo 3 when you think about it. And we compare the prices on the shelves. When Halo 3 dropped, it was $60, and when Black Ops 3 dropped, it was $60. So where's all this money coming from? How are they cutting costs enough to make up for this deficit and how much more money they're spending in terms of the actual quality of the game? A really good example of this is what Star Wars Battlefront is doing with the photogrammetry thing, where they're actually going out and taking real-life pictures and stuff and kind of like burning it into the game. I'm not even really sure how that works. If anybody knows how photogrammetry works, please do let me know. I'm kind of curious on that one. But photogrammetry is crazy, and I'm sure it's super, super expensive, and more games are going to start doing it because they have to outdo each other in terms of their quality to be able to compete with one another. But they're not seeing a higher return on investment, like I said earlier, because they already hit their market cap. So what do? What do when cutting costs doesn't become enough money for them to turn a profit? Well, that's when they have to add in micro DLC. So what this is going to do from a developer standpoint is kind of help them alleviate that problem that games are costing so much more to make these days, and they're not actually seeing a higher return on investment. So what that's going to do is kind of cushion that blow that they take from them spending so much more money on the game, but then maybe not getting so much of it back. So I feel like that as production costs go up, because production costs are going to go up for games every single year. Virtual reality is on the rise. Just keep that in mind. Games are going to get better. Technology is going to get better, and games are just overall going to cost more to develop as the years go on. So what that means for us as gamers is that the quality of our games are going to stagnate, and the aggressiveness of these micro DLC transactions is going to go up. Probably the cost and the aggressiveness will go up as well. Now Black Ops 3 is already kind of pushing it with how hard they're going with COD points and supply drops, so I can only imagine how it's going to get worse from here. So the point being here is that the quality of our games is going to stay right where they are until we have a higher market capacity until they raise that ceiling on how many people they can actually sell to. The quality of our games is most likely going to stay the same, and then micro DLC deals are only going to get worse and more aggressive. So what we need to do now is raise that cap on the gaming industry. We need to have more people to be able to buy video games and gaming consoles. So this is basically how it's going to be for the foreseeable future until something changes. Now, the last thing I want to talk to you guys about is not encouraging this kind of behavior. With the COD points and whole supply drops thing, I know it can be hard to resist sometimes when they drop new weapons, but please, if all possible, do not spend money on this, because you're encouraging this kind of behavior and letting other people know it's okay. You're letting other developers and industries know that this kind of stuff is okay. And I know a lot of you guys don't agree with this kind of stuff, so I just want to encourage you to make the right decision. I'm not going to tell you to spend your money, but please spend it wisely and then think about before you buy something. So if you guys did enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you guys on the next video.